Gentlemen, let's go live.
We are live.
We are live. So you've got money left for the end of the year.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Finance Governance, and I am the Vice Chair because Councillor Farrow has moved off this committee. Item 1 on the agenda is to elect a new chair this evening. Howard has had. I would just like to put on the record my thanks to Councillor Farrow for his time as the chair of this committee and the work he put into it. On that note, can I ask for any nominees for chair, please? Councillor Legg.
It's a bit crowded on this side, so can I propose David Gray, please?
Is there a second? Second by Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Gray, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Are there any other nominees? I'll take that as it is. Can we just have a show of hands to approve the nomination, Councillor Gray?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in favour. 11.
Any abstentions? Any against? Gray, are you voting?
I wasn't going to vote for myself. No.
Would you like that recorded as an abstention?
He wants to vote against.
Well, thank you very much. That concludes my past meeting.
2 minutes.
Right,
We'll let you.
Oh, a bit more room here now.
Breathe now. Oh. Put a chair in there.
It's the reunion call, isn't it?
Good evening, members. Just a couple of words from me before we get on the agenda, which really entails 2 big things this committee's got to do before the ascension of this council in May next year, which is we've got a budget working group which will work on your behalf to prepare for the budget proposal which will go to full council, and really important. And the second thing is there's 4 meetings left after this one for this committee, and whilst we're in good shape financially, we've got some important decisions to make because the next council needs to be handed over things in good order. So you will see things coming forward on the agenda which will be looking forward to the future. Okay, so onwards. Richard.
Yeah, sorry, is it appropriate this time that we elect a chair of the budget working group, as we haven't got another FNG before?
It's not on the agenda, unfortunately, we can't.
Yes, I'll take a question during councillors' questions and we'll decide. I know there's going to be some changes to that group, so I'll take a question during that. Okay, on with the agenda. Item 3 is apologies and absences and substitutions.
Unless you vote this, please.
Okay, so I've formally got to strike off item 2 that's on the agenda, which is the election of the vice chairman, because that post is not vacant. You're happy to stay on it? Okay, we don't need to go on. So item 3, apologies and absences and substitutions. Any?
Thank you, Chair. So we have apologies from Councillor Huckle, and Councillor Frost is substituting.
Oh, I still can't. Maybe I'm. Okay, item 4 is declaration. You can tell I'm a bit out of practice, can you? So, you've heard the apologies and the absences. Can I have a vote on that? Proposed by Councillor Harris, seconded by Councillor Wakely. All those in favour?
Unanimous, Chair.
Item 4, declarations of interest. Do we have any?
We've had none pre-notified and no dispensations were sought. However, I can see that Councillor Hamilton would like to speak.
Thank you, Chair. According to 309, to declare a non-pecuniary interest as a director of Wales Area Development Trust.
You noted. Yes, councillor.
Can I also ask a question? I believe we have Tower Hill funding on the agenda.
We do.
I mean, as a council, we've decided on our position. Do those of us who are nominated as speakers need to declare any sort of interest? Okay, thank you.
I can't see that there's a pecuniary or non-pecuniary reason.
Item 5 is the minutes of the last meeting. I wasn't there, but we all read them. Can I sign them as a true and accurate record? Yeah. Proposed by councillor Thurman, seconded by councillor Dickinson. All those in favour?
It's unanimous, thank you.
Item 6 is councillor questions and statements. Do we have any? Your chance.
Well, is this the appropriate time then to,
Well, we'll get into the agenda that way.
yeah, to ask for the action of the chair of the budget working group, but we haven't got a, I don't think we've given the formal position in the chair.
Can we, for the minutes, just restate the budget working group, for those who have been on F&G before, will be the subgroup that will take all the data that we've got and the year-to-date position this year and propose to this committee what the likely precept will be for next year. So as I wasn't at the last meeting, can we just clarify who is currently or has been voted? So we've got councillor Watley, councillor Nicholson, councillor Lambert and councillor Hamilton. Are you all happy to stay on that committee? Councillor Lambert.
Chair, yeah, I got self-elected on it thinking I would be available, but in fact I'm not available during November, which is when I think you're going to be most busy.
Yeah.
So I think I'd better withdraw to give someone else the opportunity.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to be on the budget?
Are you on it automatically as chair of F&G?
Yes, councillor Barrow was on it, so I'm assuming I am on it. Councillor Hearn.
When you on it? So you're still on it?
Councillor Hearn.
I think I'd like to go on it. I think with it, hopefully I'll be re-elected and I'd like to have some understanding of budget and have a bit more experience in that department. So I think it's appropriate.
Can I just point out, I think the meetings are during the day, they were last year, during the day.
Do you know if it's morning or afternoon? Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, I tried to leave this into the agenda, but I'm getting pressure that I can't put this alone because it's not on the agenda. So what I'll do is I'll write to you and I'll write to the other.
Chair, can I propose we postpone standing orders to allow a vote on this if we think it's an important matter?
You can propose.
Propose that we standing orders for 5 minutes to allow us to take the vote and then resume standing orders.
This is where members of the public are looking at us going. Yeah. Okay. No is the answer to that question. I'll go back to my original plan, which is I'll write to the 3 existing members and councillor Lambert and confirm there. I'm just working on the dates for the subgroup meetings, and I'll copy you in if nobody else wants to be nominated.
Well, my hand is completely to the next full council agenda, so you don't have to wait.
We don't need councillor approval.
It's subgroup or working group.
Working
So you've been using the terminology working group, which may be formed by resolution of full council or a committee at any time.
Are you saying may be formed? It doesn't have to be then.
I mean, it could just be a chat. Okay, put it on the next agenda then.
You
Well,
know, you could have a budget cafe, I understand that, or you don't at the moment.
I wouldn't go that far. Then you can draw to council listening. Put it on the next agenda. Okay, well,
Chair, is that check or checkmate?
thank you, councillor Hamilton. Enough of the frivolity, let's get back to the agenda. Item 7 is public questions time. Okay. Councillor Bergman, nice to see you.
Thank you, Chairman. Do you want me to sit here or?
If you can come forward, yeah, so that the owl can pick you up.
Thank you very much. So as you know, I'm a councillor, but I'm a member of the public. I know on the agenda, you'll discuss the incinerator, the proposed incinerator today. And really, I just wanted to, and I know I've only got 3 minutes, I just wanted to make 2 brief points. Firstly, when the planning committee about 3 years ago considered this, we did object. Now, there are 2 areas of issue. The first thing, we went through all the planning considerations, which is the formal way you review the planning application, and we found that the application did go against some of these planning considerations. So the essence of the vote in objection was to follow planning consideration. However, we also went through the issues of how important the objection would be, and we heard about the fact that the fumes from the incinerator, there was clinical evidence that they were carcinogenic and potentially had severe effects, potential effects on child mortality. There are known dangers through nitrous oxide, acid gases, and also unknown gases as well as mercury. And there's a lot of discussion about that now, which I won't replicate, but we discussed a little bit about that though, Weymouth Town Council meeting last week. And I think one of the councillors put it a lot better than I could have done when she spoke about children and what's more important than the likelihood of her child catching cancer, even though there isn't absolute proof. So the point I'd like to make is, with all the work, the good work this council has done, where does this lie in the priority of things? Because I know you'll be discussing the potential payment to the working group against the incinerator. So as this council said, what's more important than the likelihood of children catching cancer? Now, I know we can't spend more money than we've got. We're not allowed to, neither should we. But what we can do as good councillors is reprioritise. So if you think about all the projects we've done, and one that's I know very much welcomed by all is Tumbledown, for example. So if you take the one that everybody likes, compared with children potentially getting cancer, which is more important. So I'm not talking about Tumbledown particularly. So when you consider the financial support you give, I think it's not about finding more money. It's about reprioritizing. Look what we're spending at the moment and think what's more important in the scale of things. Is the incinerator or the objection against the incinerator more important, or are some of our projects more important? So for me, it's obviously the incinerator, because I checked that potentially affects child mortality, which I think is the most important thing there is. So that's one point. And my other point is very, very quick. We voted against Rule 6 at Weymouth Town Council for totally understandable reasons, the time commitments, but we have to have barrister, etc., etc., etc. I've looked into this a little bit. We don't need to spend a lot of money. And if this committee thinks about Rule 6 or wants to discuss Rule 6, it's up to this committee. It's not for me to say you should or not. But the only point I'd make is if you do reconsider, I think the time commitment's about 15 days. We've got 4 councillors already speaking against the incinerator. On behalf of the council, there may be other volunteers and there's obviously officers. I don't think it would be an enormous commitment to actually participate under Rule 6, even just reiterate the objections we had on planning, which are significant. And personally, what I would do is invite a public health specialist, and the reason why, which aren't expensive by the way, and the reason why is because if planning is overruled, it goes to the environmental agency, as another councillor said at Weymouth, at our meeting, it's had disinvestment recently, but it is influenced by public health opinion, and it is very, very cheap to get a public health specialist to speak on our behalf under Rule 6. So that I know my 3 minutes is up. So two points: reprioritize as opposed to just spending more money, and two, if you reconsider involvement in Rule 6, I would support that, and I can think of a way around where it would be inexpensive. I know we all love it together. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Burton. I'm going to ask the town clerk to respond formally, and then we'll come back to it.
Thank you, Chair. Just to respond in the meeting to Councillor Bergman's question, obviously we weren't pre-notified, and so I haven't prepared a response. As Councillor Bergman and councillors of this committee will be aware, the matter was discussed by full council last week, and full council decided not to pursue Rule 6 status. That is a legitimate decision of full council, which cannot be revisited by this committee and can only be revisited by full council if significant new information comes to light. I stand by the assessment in the original report that the amount of funding and the amount of officer time needed is outside of our capacity and our budget capability at the moment. We do not have in-house experts. To make a success of Rule 6, you need to be able to attend, understand all the technical information, and have someone with enough information experience to cross-examine. That's where the benefit of Rule 6 comes in. Not being a Rule 6 status party doesn't mean that we can't comment. In fact, the nominated councillors, Councillor Kate Weller as the mayor, Councillor David Harris as the leader, Councillor Jan Bergman as a public health specialist, and Councillor Hamilton as one of the directly affected local councillors were all nominated to speak, and as directed by full council, I've spent several hours today starting to draw together the key points, and I'm very much hoping that local groups who are Rule 6, such as Stockport and Waste Incinerator Group, will be able to assist us in making sure we make best use of our time to speak. And the decision of full council was that this committee considered financial support Stockport and Waste Incinerator, and we do have a representative in the room with us tonight, should there be any questions, because that is the best way to ensure that one way or another, whether it's us, someone else, whoever, has experts in the room capable of cross-examination. I don't feel if we stepped in as a Rule 6 party, we will be bringing anything new and significant to the table that the existing Rule 6 parties won't be bringing themselves. And we can make better use of our money and our time by supporting those existing Rule 6. That's my opinion. That was in the report, and the decisions of full council are a matter of public record, and due to the 6-month limitations in standing orders cannot be revisited by this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? Councillor Hope, you have your hand up?
It was, Chair, but I don't know if you'll indulge me, because I was actually going to go for a question and then councillor questions, but I got confused because Councillor Bergman asked a public question. Therefore, can I ask a question as a member of the public?
Yeah, because you're part of this committee. Any other questions?
I think I still can, Chair. And I was going to allude to your issue about appointing a chair and a working group, understanding order. 10.1.9. Motions to the meeting that do not require written notice is to appoint a committee or subcommittee and their members. Therefore, we can resolve the issue for the budget working group committee, should we wish.
Would you like to respond?
Thank you, Chair. Standing order 10.1.9 refers to the appointment of a committee or subcommittee and their members, and this is a working group which is covered by the delegations in Annex A. having read that, that surprises me that that's not limited to full council to set up. Only full council can determine committees, and only a committee can determine a subcommittee. If you wanted to have a subcommittee, but then that is I would need to check on what the rules are around publicity.
It really isn't.
Budgeting. It'll be fine.
Well, if you just indulge me because it's a,
Well, I think really.
We not already got a working group?
Yeah.
So.
There should be no.
it's a matter of full council to determine, no, hang on.
The fact remains is the working group was voted in by this committee previously, so that there was a precedent set there because the members of the working group were already voted in. So my view is, and we did the same last year, so it's for this committee to decide.
Chair, I thought we were satisfied with what was going to happen, and therefore I move next business. Now that's in standing orders.
Second that.
I'll second.
I agree. We'll move on.
I would have, because a working group has no formal decision-making capabilities.
Yeah.
I would feel that it's perfectly in order for guests to be invited, should they be able to add anything to that particular working group, which gives you a little flexibility until you can finally determine.
Councillor Lees, you asked a specific question around chair. I think the group can decide that.
Yeah,
At the time, we don't need to discuss it tonight.
as long as we have that power to do that.
Yeah, I'm keen for it we did a good job last year in bringing forward proposals. And I see the same happening this year. And if Councillor Thurman wants to come along, I can see a lot of nodding around the room. If people want to join, that's fine. Okay, we're going to get back to the agenda because the members of the public are going, what the hell are they talking about?
Councillors are doing that as well.
Yes. I've been back 5 minutes, Councillor now. Get a grip. So we're going to, I'm just going one minor change to the agenda because we've got an officer here, Shane's here to talk about asset management plan update. So after we hear the grant applications, which is 8, and the funding to support the objections of the Powerfield appeal, number 11 is going to go to number 10, and number 10 is going to go to number 11. So that's the only change. It's just so that Shane doesn't have to wait all night listening to us. He can go home. Okay, so back to the agenda. Grant applications committee, and we've got hopefully representatives in the room. I'm going to ask the town clerk to introduce the first one, which is Waybay Crafters.
Thank you, Chair. As with all applications for grants contained in item 8, I won't be taking you through the application forms piece by piece. I'm sure you've all taken the time before the meeting to read them and don't need to sit here and hear me read them through. I believe we have representatives from all of the groups. So, Chair, I wonder if you've if members would like to consider the first, which is Waybay Crafters, and I believe we have Anne McDonald and Chris Marlowe.
Welcome, Anne and Chris. You have to sit there. If you'd like to come forward and talk, that's fine. You can speak into the microphone.
As long as you can hear us.
Yes. So you don't need to go through the application because the members have had that. We'll probably, if you're available to take questions, I'll take any points from councillors and I'll defer to you if you answer any questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Members, Councillor Hope.
Thank you, Chair. Which is the last Environment and Services Committee that I'll get my own back, didn't I? So, okay, anyway, point 28. Income, the anticipated income and expenditure over the next 12 months. We've got £780 there. I thought it was a ruling of the policy on this that any money issued had to be spent within 12 months. So I'm just question really for the clerk. Can we award a grant higher than the anticipated expenditure for the next 12 months if there's a time limit on when the money has to be spent.
Could you just let me know which,
Point 28, and the anticipated income / expenditure for the next 12 months. There it says £780. Obviously, we're being asked to award not 957. But I'm just questioning really, I'm sure that the policy around the allocation of funds, they have to be spent within 12 months. So surely the maximum that we can actually allocate would be the 780, if that's the expenditure in 12 months.
If I may, Chair, you are correct that funding has to be spent within the 12 months. I suspect what's happened here, and I'm sure we have some experts in the room that can confirm, is that the £780 is the running of the group normally, and the 900 is extra work that can be done if that funding is
yes,
got.
yes, sorry.
Received.
English.
So the 780 is the core running costs of the
Yes.
group, room hire, things like that, that would happen anyway
Yes,
if you didn't get the extra funding.
yes.
Does that satisfy your point, councillor?
Very much.
Okay, any further questions, members? So this is the first one, I'm looking for something to put. Councillor Thurman.
Yeah, can I ask just a quick question? In terms of your attendance and numbers,
Yes.
I think I'm probably going to ask this for every grant application. How do you envisage this, this grant to be able to improve those numbers or change those numbers and adapt and so on?
We're hoping for the numbers to increase, and the more we offer, the more likelihood we'll get more people on board to take part in what we do. And the more people we have, the more we will have a surplus on top of the room rents and the insurance, which will then go to fund the consumables next year in the future. And the other way we're going to help fund the consumables is when we have specific evenings, we will ask for contributions towards the cost of that specific evening. That will give us money in the bank to move forward for next year as we go forward.
Follow-up question, Chair, if that's all right?
Go ahead.
Do you have a formal strategy in place for increasing numbers?
It's very difficult because our group is set up, it was set up coming out of COVID for people who are lonely, people with anxiety. It's a very gentle, supportive group. So it's as and when we meet people or they get to know about us, we welcome them in.
We're advertising on social media, what's on Weymouth Park, various grant groups and things like that. So, you know, it's constant advertising.
But very long time, word of mouth,
Yeah.
bearing in mind the group we are.
Yeah.
We've had 2 new members in the last month. And they were the people that we met here now, and just chatting and and then obviously they have friends and they invite friends and.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay,
Can I propose we accept this offer?
proposed by councillor Harris, seconded by councillor Dickinson. This is a grant to Waybay Crafters for £957.04. Go on, all those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, just. Hang on.
Just something to reassure members and everybody in the room, any grants that are approved tonight, our grants administration officer, Helen Legg, will be in touch with all successful applicants to progress the signing of the funding agreement and to transfer those funds over as soon as we can, so they can start being put to good use.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Everyone's welcome to join us.
Don't feel the need to stay if you don't want to. Yes. Okay, committee number 2 is Radical Lake Angling Society. I hope we've got a representative from the angling club here. He's nodding.
Yes, Chair, we have Eddie Waring and Gavin Ross.
We're in Gavin Ross.
Oh, okay.
Welcome Eddie, welcome Gavin. again, same format, we want, councillors would have read the application. So can I ask the committee if they've got any questions? Councillor Legg.
Thank you very much, Chair. I've got a question actually which relates to this one and also the next one, the rowing club as well, because it's a similar.
Should take this one to start with.
Well, yeah, but I've done, in a minute, I should say the same question, please.
That's okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
And that is that this is for maintenance in this case. And we have a stipulation that nothing must be reoccurring on a yearly basis in our grant applications. Am I right?
Yes, it's predominantly for capital costs, so there's been some exceptions.
Well, I always thought with maintenance, you should always treat it as a recurring cost, because if you know don't want to spend it in 1 year, regularly every year, it's the need for it is occurring every year. And therefore, maintenance is always considered as something you should set aside for to cover when you get it. And I don't believe maintenance is necessarily a capital cost. Question?
Eddie, you?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, councillors. On that note, if I take you back to when what the maintenance costs are going to be used for, the platforms that we want to use for the maintenance and to get refurbished were actually put in along Radipole Drive during 2004 and paid for by the Environmental Agency at a cost of £14,000. Since then, we've seen a rapid decline in some of those platforms, particularly the ones further up Radipole Drive. And that is due to a lot of the lake becoming overgrown with reed and weeds and basically becoming unmanageable and non-accessible to ourselves as fishermen and obviously our guests who come down to Weymouth. So what we as a committee, a newly formed committee, I may add, we set up a committee in June. We looked at it and said, look, we want to bring the fishing rights back to Weymouth and offer that facility for, ourselves, our residents of Weymouth, our guests who come down here and enjoy the fishing of Radipole Lake. And unfortunately, because we've got those platforms which are some of them unsafe, and it's not only anglers who actually use those platforms, RSPB users of the lake actually use them to go and look at the birds, members of the public use them, and we are obliged by our insurance to ensure that we keep the safety of the public by upholding the maintenance of those platforms. And in accordance with our agreement with the council under section 3.1 of our license agreement, we have an obligation to maintain those platforms in a safe and sturdy manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dickinson.
On this question of capital, I read here that disabled people require suitable barriers installed to prevent users falling into the lake. Is that not an element of capital cost, or is it something new? That isn't something new. No. Those barriers, there are barriers around the front of the disabled swim. We've got 2 disabled swims platforms, and there are barriers there to prevent the disabled from actually going into the lake.
So this money's used to refurbish those existing,
it's
for
all
the disabled ones.
and including the
Yes.
disabled ones. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Wally.
You say RSPB have the current lease for the lake, and you have the official agreement with which council?
Weymouth.
No.
Sorry, Dorset
Dorset.
Council. Yes.
That's what I was interested in.
Okay, I've got a question, but I'll go to Councillor Hope first.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just looking at this, can you see part of your breakdown in costs is £500 purchase tools for ongoing maintenance work. I'm just wondering if you've looked at any of the other local organisations that have these tools already available, such as like the Man Shed, to see if it's a project you could jointly work on. Save yourself £500 project cost.
That's something I haven't considered. That's something we can consider. If that is the way that we need to go, then that's the way we need to go. But as you probably are well aware, tools and equipment is, you know, a considerable cost for ongoing maintenance concerns.
Councillor Harris.
Adding to that idea, again, if you're short of funds from whatever happens today or whenever, Jewsons and B&Q have grants that they'll give to organisations like yourselves. So they're another source that you might like to look at.
That's very helpful, thank you.
I've got a couple of questions, or to clarify my understanding. So Dorset Council own the freehold and they have a lease with the RSPB, I think.
Yes,
It was Weymouth Council initially.
yeah.
It's Dorset Council now. So my question is, have the RSPB or Dorset Council contributed to the cost of refurbing these units?
No,
So you said in your statement there that the RSPB use them. So if they use them, why aren't we asking them for a contribution?
well, when I say they may be using them as members of the public, as opposed to going on the platform and identify themselves as an RSPB member. But people do go there who may be RSPB members to view the birds and I mean, we can't charge the members of the public for doing that.
No, well, they do use them. So I've been on a tour with the RSPB and they definitely use it.
Yeah, I know they use them.
The members of the public go, they set chairs there and they sit there.
Yeah,
It was more about the ownership of the lake, the Environment Agency and Dorset Council and the RSPB. If they're all users, I'm wondering why you're coming to us only and not them as well.
well, yes, okay, I appreciate what you're saying. We have built bridges with the RSPB over the years, you know.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. But, you know, and we've built bridges since we formed the committee and even today I've had an email from them. The upper end that we were talking about, the maintenance mainly to the platforms at that end. Because we can't fish there, we've now been offered the chance to use their digger, to get rid of the reed, some of the platforms, to get rid of some of the reed, so that we can now open up those swims and create more revenue for the angling club and future maintenance. We will then be able to support our future maintenance needs.
Fair point.
The actual club at the moment, the society, is in danger of folding.
Yeah.
That is our problem.
Is that through lack of interest or just organisation?
Places to fish. Over the years, the RSPB have allowed the eastern arm of the lake, the Dover Road. They've kept the other side okay. If we don't do anything about it soon, it will be gone. That is our problem. The start of this, we started in June with the committee, new committee, is we need some money to start regenerating that lake. First thing we need to do is build more platforms, get them up to speed, so more people can fish, then we can generate more money, do another platform, This is not this year, we're looking at the 5-10 year plan here.
I would encourage you.
To help kickstart it off.
Yeah, I would encourage you to apply to Dorset Council community funds as well.
Yes, we are actually talking to
Dorset Council, that's perfect.
It's been a bit of a money go.
Councillor Harris.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like the committee to remember that this has been decreasing in use over a long period of time. It hasn't had any investment put into it for a long period of time. Angling is a very important aspect of the life of Weymouth people. A lot of Weymouth people love their angling. And as has just been mentioned, we've got a situation where there are other grants around as well. But I'd like us to welcome a new committee, give them a kick start with some funding, and then allow them to actually go forward and apply elsewhere for that further funding they'll need to bring it right up to speed. It has decreased its use for a long, long period. I've walked through that lake for the last 30 years and have seen the deterioration.
Is that a proposal, councillor Harris?
I'm proposing that we accept their application.
Proposed from councillor Harris, seconded by? Yes, seconded by councillor Dickinson. Yes, you just clarify the main.
So the amount recommended in the agenda, councillors, is £2,700.
So, before I go to the vote, councillor Legg,
I'd just like to point out a procedural matter that you're proposing something which is against our rules.
members, anybody else?
I believe our rules will be going to pay ongoing costs. There's appears to be a one-off refurbishment stroke kickstart, and we've done similar for other community groups. So from my point of view, I'm fine with it, and happy to help the committee get started, but I would hope in future years you don't come back to us with a very similar request, because you may find we would not be so helpful going on way.
Thank you very much. No.
Yes, so just for clarity, whilst this is revenue, we have done this for other, to get, from a community point of view. I think if councillor Furman thought about it, you might ask a question about how many people you're going to attract. If you were to come back to us in the future, we would need to see, evidence that you were spreading it wider. So committee, back to councillor Harris proposed, councillor Dickinson seconded. All those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
All those against?
1,
One. And all those abstaining?
1, 2, 3, 4. So that is carried.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
The officer will be in touch on the
Thank you, Chairman.
administration.
Come down and sit on the platform sometime.
Yeah, please.
If I could fish, that might make sense.
I'll take you, councillor. Thank you.
Well, picture.
Thank
you. Right, thank you very much.
Cheers.
Right, good evening.
Okay, moving on, councillors. Application number 3, I'm going to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. We do have Liz from the Friendly Food Club with us today, who'll be able to respond to any questions. This is for Friendly Food Club, which seeks to focus on teaching people cooking skills, preparing cheap, nutritious meals from basic ingredients, and using energy efficient equipment. The request is to support 40 people attending these cooking sessions with a free slow cooker. The project cost is just over £9,000, and the application amount is £1,120. Thank you, Chair.
Committee, you've hopefully read the report. Questions from councillor Hope?
Thank you very much, Chair. It's not a question. It's just when the opportunity comes, I'd like to propose this. This is a fantastic initiative, fantastic project that really supports some of the most needy in our community at a time of cost of living crisis. So I'd just really like to thank the organisation for bringing this project forward. I was happy to support it coming to committee, and I'd like to propose it when the opportunity comes forward.
Second. Seconded. Any other questions before we, councillor Furman?
Yes, same as I asked earlier, Chair, I'm just interested, sorry,
Please.
Hi, yeah, so just interested in sort of how you're approaching increasing numbers, getting out there and things like that. And just for clarity, Chair, I'd like us to look further into this as a committee, just in general. So we ensure that, not personally, ensure to the organisation, that we as a committee are ensuring that the infrastructure around these community groups are at full speed, and we're not in the danger of, spending a lot of our grant money too quickly, and making sure we're getting those that are working the hardest that are able to gain our grant funding sort of thing. So I'm not trying to be sticky, Chair, sorry.
No, I'm happy to, if you want to form a little group to look at the rules around grant applications for next year.
Yeah.
And then we can do that. Thank you. Any other questions? It's been proposed by councillor Hope, seconded by councillor Legg. All those in favour?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's unanimous.
Congratulations. The officer will be in touch around the administration. Thank you. Moving on. Just looking at the next one is Weymouth Rowing Club. I'd like to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. I believe we have two representatives from the rowing club, Colin and Debbie. I'm afraid I don't have your second names, I'm sorry. So this is an application from Weymouth Rowing Club. I think it was last year. Members may recall a previous allocation was made. This is for a project totaling nearly £32,000. The application amount is 5,000 and the recommendation is 2,500. Councillors will recall that applications over £3,000 have to demonstrate why there is an urgency and an immediate need for the additional funding. It was felt that this didn't meet that additional criteria. And the project is for repairs and an extension to the boat shed, which is home to two of the wooden boats and ancillary equipment. You can see in the report that there is a much wider funding strategy of fundraising, and I'm sure our representatives will be happy to respond to any questions councillors may have.
Councillor Legg, would you like to repeat your objection? Was this the one where you?
Shall I just answer it?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
so good evening, councillors. Thank you very much for considering an application from us this year. We're both members of the rowing club, and Colin managed some of the things that we've been able to do ourselves in the past, and also some of the things that you helped us with. Your question about maintenance. I think there's a difference between maintaining things and things getting towards the end of their natural life, and a bit like the rowing club, the fishing platforms. The rowing club was founded in 2004, and those of you who know the building will know that it was essentially somebody's prefab garage at the front, and a stunning extension done with help from Dorset Works in about 2006 that gives us the current shed. We have maintained it to the best of our ability over the last 20 years, but it's in a very shaded, damp bit of the harbour. And I think COVID and the inability to really get there and keep a good eye on it was probably the beginning of the story that leads us to the state that we're in now. Members of the committee also spent a lot of time over the last 2 years exploring the feasibility of completely replacing the shed. The combination of really dodgy harbour walls, access to the site, and you name it, has given us an unviable target to think about replacing the shed on that site. And so what is before you and before our committee is how to keep the club functioning safely and thriving in the way that it is over the next few years, whilst we engage with Dorset Council and anyone else who wants to on a sort of longer term move and site for the club. The club is the largest it has ever been, and 40% of the people who try rowing try it because they've seen us doing it, which actually means that we reach a lot of people who are not naturally very active, and wouldn't necessarily see themselves as team players. So we're gathering our evidence about the health benefits of rowing. We believe they're strong. The fundraising strategy, a bit like the tarmac, it's really tricky. For some reason, Sport England don't believe that they need to help with premises, so their small grants programme may or may not be open to us. Dorset Council are willing to consider a capital leverage grant from us, and we're working towards doing that in January next year. The postcode lottery recently turned us down because we couldn't demonstrate community consultation telling us that we should re-roof our shed. It's not really what community consultation would be about or what it would tell us. So we are in quite a tricky position, which was partly why we asked if you consider an exceptional grant. But in either case, we would be grateful for any funding, and we have a meeting of the committee tomorrow to discuss what progress we can make with funding that we've already raised your contribution and another contribution that we're hoping will come through Dorset Community Foundation.
Thank you. I'll speak now. Yes, you can. That's there. Well, I wasn't going to vote against this.
But now,
Because there is some aspect of revenue and some aspect of capital in it. And without splitting it down too much, the recommendation is for about 7 or 8% of the total project cost. So I'm quite sure that repairs can go in that lot and not have any capital in that 7 or 8%. But I just come back to it, I think we've got to be a bit more careful about capital and revenue in the applications we receive.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Harris.
Yes, I've just got one question, and that is, are you in contact with Dorset Council over the repairs to the harbour walls that they're going to make, and whether that will have any impact on your shed?
We've read the Woodside regeneration bid. I don't believe they're planning to touch that bit of the wall. But we may be wrong. We will continue to develop the contact. If I'm completely honest, we would really love them to earmark some land by the range and work with us to put the clubhouse somewhere which is a bit more all-weather. Northeasterly winds actually limit whether we can launch the boats and actually mean we have to bring the plastic boats out of the water. But that is a longer term aspiration. So yes, we are doing our best to stay in touch with the Harbour Master assets team in Dorset Council and anyone else who's willing to do this.
Okay, thank you. I've got a couple of, you first. Okay, now I've got a couple of questions. I've got a couple of issues myself with this application. One is the fact that you've got £25,000 in the bank. And this grant scheme wasn't designed for people who've got that in the bank.
Okay, so
Can I finish the question?
yeah, sure.
The second is the 26,796, 15,000 of it was from the postcode lottery. So over half of it, and that application has been turned down, and there's nothing in here that says how you're going to plug that hole. So if we collect money, there's no sort of reasonable, I can't see anything in here that says if you don't get the capital leverage from Dorset Council and you've got 2,500 from us and 15,000 missing with 25,000 in the bank, I'm not sure that's the best use of our community sort of support grant scheme.
I'm sorry, I haven't got my final version of it. I know we've done various projections. The intention was to do postcode lottery first, and if it didn't come through or came through with lesser, to seek to backfill with either awards for all or Sport England. We were never relying on all three of them coming through. If I'm brutally honest, the 25,000 has been built up because we were hoping that we would be working on a major capital bid. So it is built up over a little bit of time. Had we been able to hold the regatta this year, we would definitely feel more confident about releasing a larger chunk of our reserves, but we effectively lost £5,000 of discretionary income this year. Our running costs are relatively high, and if anything were to happen to a boat, for example, that would be 15,000 to 20,000 pounds in itself. So our reserves are not reasonable for the big expenditure. And I think we'd be open to you challenging us to what proportion of your reserves you felt we should put towards this. I think we're going to have to put more than we pay.
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that you've got to carry a reserve because of the capital nature of what you do with the boats. But this scheme is never designed to support people with that amount of money in the bank. So that's sort of my problem. I think the other thing I feel uncomfortable with is committing money when others haven't. So if I'm to vote for this, I'd probably propose that we wait until you've got other secure sources of funding before we can.
That would be consistent with what Dorset Council do on capital leverage, but it's so much easier for us if we've got a commitment, even if we haven't got the money drawn down.
Sure. Councillor Thurman.
Thank you, Chair. So I don't want to pry too much, but in the papers it says that your yearly income is 45,000. which is around, I think, 250 members, 15 subs and some other bits. I don't think I've ever seen committee members, an amount of community club with that amount of money coming in. And I don't want to put you on the spot and say, what does that actually spend on? Because that's an extraordinary amount of money. However, I feel a little bit uneasy with that amount of money coming in yearly in comparison to other organisations that have come to us in similar cases of capital spends. And us getting, again, talking about the amount of grant funding that we've allocated already this year, is there maybe a more deserving, I hate to say that, I'm sorry, but a more deserving and in need organisation that we may have to overlook down the line that doesn't take in £45,000 a year.
Thank you, councillor.
Can I answer that?
You can.
In the appendices, you've got our full independently signed off accounts for last year, so that will give you the detailed breakdown. I can't speak off the top of my head, but I've grown up in a sporting family, mainly cricket. Actually, this is quite a modest amount for a club with 250 active sports participants.
Yes, with 250, yes. Sorry, I want to be clear.
Yeah.
As an organisation, not rather one comparing it to 250, because that's quite a lot.
Yeah, so it's the number of people we reach.
Yeah.
Is 250 plus at least 100 who have a taster of some description. We only ask the youngsters to pay about £30 a year. If someone can't afford to pay, they don't pay. So I think compared to a lot of competitive, we focus on community sport, but actually we are also a competitive sports team. I don't know, the town clerk may have other benchmark figures. Off the top of my head, I would have said the cricket club my dad was involved in had income about 70,000 a year.
Yeah,
And probably the same, so
they're
it's probably.
not here.
No, they're not here. So, but don't underestimate what it costs to put coaching and insurance and all sorts of things in place for sport, and that's why the running costs.
With all respect, Chair, I'm chairing an organisation that has about near 500 members, so I'm with you.
I'm not trying to.
No, that's fine. I just didn't want to waste the time.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wakeling.
Thank you, Chair. This is in my wards and I walk the dog past it twice a day. And I'm well aware of the state of the roof is not very healthy. Keep Rowing is an iconic part of Weymouth Harbour. Everyone that comes here enjoys watching the boats and hundreds of people participate in this club. So I would like to support this motion. And I'm happy to be the proposer, if anyone else wants to second it, to go to a vote. I think it's important, and I'm happy for the award, as Councillor Gray has alluded to be conditional on raising other funds from elsewhere. I'd like to support this, please.
Councillor Legg.
I would just like to mention to my honourable councillor on my left here, is he honourable? That we did support, for example, Citizen Advice, we got far bigger income when they came for a particular project.
Point taken. Any more questions? Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. Not a question, but I'd like to make a second proposal on the table, which is to defer the application at this point until further support has been found by Weymouth Rowing Club. I think it's important that we recognise within this room and as a council and those listening in the public that we're not against Weymouth Rowing Club. And we have financially supported them in the past after looking a bit further into their application. I know the last application that came here didn't go through the first time, similar sort of system, come back to us when you got a bit more support. So I think that's where we should be at the moment. Unfortunately, we're not in a position quite yet. And by the time they've raised it, it might not be this financial year. Maybe a new budget setting process time, may have more money in our accounts to give away, and we may be able to review it then.
I think that's similar to Councillor Wakeling's proposal, which is to propose and defer until other sources of income have been. I think that's what the Rowing Club are looking for, is a surety that if they get other funding, that we will commit. Come back.
Just to come back on that, Chair. If we go down the route of Councillor Wakeling, we'll be ring-fencing that within the allocated budget this year. Which means we cannot make it available to another group that may need it before the Rowing Club do require it.
I'll take that under advisement, because if it's a reserve, we may well go over budget by that amount, so that we can release that if it's goes over a financial year.
If I could be reassured that, I could probably support councillor Wakeling, but if not.
If I may, Chair, the recommendation that's up in front of you on the screen from councillor Wakeling, £2,500 conditional on the rest of the funds being found within the next 12 months. If you do allocate that, that funds will be earmarked and withheld from this year's budget, and we can hold it over to next year's budget as part of the carryover. But the funds will be earmarked and so will not be available for allocation.
And therefore, Chair, if I may, that's no different than applying it directly, because if we allocate the money and they don't spend it within the 12 months, they've got to give it back anyway. So that does nothing different from what the policy does. So my proposal will be to defer at this stage, but welcome back a review when further funds have been found.
Okay, I'll come back to you, councillor Dickinson.
The problem we have with this is that can we allocate budget funds to a new council next year, which we may not be in a position to get agreement for, if it's going across council.
If we vote for it, then the money will be held in suspense. So yes, effectively, if you vote this year, this year's decision will stand. It's just deferred, if you like, in the bank account. But it will come out of the fifth budget that we have for this year. So we won't be eating into the next council's decision on their grant application.
Well, the only other point I'd make is that during the work of the winter session, we'll organise the reception of the launch and recovery boats. I mean, if we don't get this money, does it mean that the seed route work cannot be done? It's going to wait 12 months and it wants to stay for the time.
It can't be done without the other funding. I think that's the point. If we owe the only grant coming forward, they won't be able to do that work because it's not enough money. Effectively, then the money would come back to us.
Wanted to ask a quick question of clarification based on that recommendation. If we were to put together the money to do phase one, because we very clearly set it out to phase one, and phase one is the urgent and essential, could the condition be limited with identifying the funding for the third part? So not the extension, but
Just
the
the
refurbishment.
just the £15,057.
Because there is a realistic chance that we can do that and get cracking this winter, which would be really helpful.
Yes, I think that's reasonable. If the grant is for the refurb, yes. Because you're then getting into the territory of capital losses.
Yeah.
Yes. I wouldn't call it a refurb, I would call it replacement.
Whatever language suits you, but yes, the bit that makes us safe and dry.
So, members, I'm going to take councillor Hope's proposal first because we need. Oh, right. Okay.
Second.
Which you proposed, yes. So we've got a proposal.
I did call second, councillor Hope.
Did you?
Yeah. So we've got councillor Hope's original proposal, which is on screen.
No.
Councillor Wakeling, councillor Furman is going to second it. If you vote for that and it goes through, then we won't take the amended proposals.
Point, Chair. I voiced a second councillor Hope's proposal, not councillor Wakeling.
Okay, so it's not councillor Burnham. You already have a proposal
Yes.
from councillor Wakeling that now requires.
Thank you, which is councillor Harris. We are voting on that proposal, which is on the screen, to be clear about that. The only amendment will be that it will be towards the capital, phase one of the capital replacement. 2,500 of 15. Are we all clear? If that fails, we'll come back to councillor Hope. So we've got a proposal on the seconder in councillor Wakeling and councillor Harris. All those in favour of what's on the screen?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All those against? Any abstentions?
You want one. Thank you. So that is carried, Chair, as amended.
So, safe in the knowledge that if phase one, and when you do your return to us after 6 months, is it really? Can you lay out the refurbishment and how that's helped?
Or even replacement.
Replacement, capital replacement.
Whatever, yes, we'll, thank you very much, then we'll.
Thank you.
Like a new roof.
Is it the last one?
Yes, it is, Jack.
Run out of money. And I see Chris is back there. So the last one is Weymouth Area Development Trust. This is for the shop that you voted last year. You can see it. Town Clerk, do you wish to say anything on this particular application? No? You said that, but I knew it.
I'm getting really good at this. I have nothing to add, only, this is an application for over the £3,000. It is for £5,000, which is the maximum, so there is a need to demonstrate the urgency of significant community need to the more vulnerable residents in our community. And I am sure that Chris Wilson from Weymouth Area Development Trust would be more than happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Chris, welcome. Do you like to come forward? And I think Councillor Hope's got the first question.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's not actually a question. I'm just going to make a proposal that we support this to the full amount. If my memory recalls correctly, last year we did talk about putting this on a service level agreement sort of allocation. And if I remember correctly, it was actually
Me, who blocked it.
Don't listen to him.
You might have blocked it, but I believe that also Chris said no, because I don't know we're going to have the funds from everyone else. Obviously, if you've got the funds, we pretty much agreed that last year, so I'd like to propose that we actually just get on and get the £5,000 and move on with the rest of the agenda this evening.
I'll second that.
Let me guess, yes, seconded. I think there might be some questions. If they're not, I've got some. Anybody else? Councillor Wickham.
Well, my question, I think we've had the same question straight on tonight. Is this a revenue grant or is this a capital grant?
However,
In the terms of the grant, in the policy, which has been stripped out of this one, you are able, you have the flexibility to do that, and you have done it before, particularly with the SLA, with citizens advice.
we did. My questions, Chris, are around, frantically reading whether I've missed it or not. Have we secured the shop on a medium-term basis? I know there was a landlord issue last time. It was 3 years we were sort of talking and you couldn't.
We're securing the shop for 12 months.
Yes.
We have the potential to break clauses next month. And we are actively currently looking to see whether we can find cheaper premises. Any spaces that anybody's got that we can talk about, we're happy to talk about that. But yes, it's sitting with the Development Trust. Previously, in the previous application last year, it was being held by Age UK, which you will see in the report is referenced, but they've given up their premises to most of their charity shops.
Councillor Lee?
Yeah, can I just ask, are you renegotiating the rent at the moment? The rate was coming up.
We have requested renegotiation, but literally in the next 4 weeks.
Because I believe Age UK had premises for you,
They do?
and they weren't paying £30,000 a year.
No, they're paying 20,000, which is what we're paying.
Right, so is there an opportunity to, I mean, there's a lot of empty shops in Britain, I just wonder how much. There's a possibility we can negotiate.
We have asked, we have been refused once already. We will ask again when we talk about the break clause.
I think you should, because that's there's a number of empty properties, and I think landlords are not in a particularly strong position at the moment to, to get more. So I would advise you to.
We will definitely ask, because the layout of the shop you've been in, so you know, is very useful, because we've got the 2 smaller rooms which have been used for the COVID-19 walking clinics and the public health to health check assessments for vulnerable people coming in the town. So finding something that has that same facilities, something we continue for.
So Chris, just looking at who else is funding the project, am I right in saying it's added up to just over 20,000 that's so far secured with Weymouth bid, Wessex Water, DC, and all lottery applications still to be sorted?
Yeah, so with the amount I put in there, which is the 29, and then around 30,000 is the overall cost of money. But what we'd like to do, and we're applying for larger amounts of funding to lottery, etc., is actually get paid staff so that we have the capacity to look at actually monetizing things as we go forward. We've just, thank you to James, been introduced to the town clerk at Bridport to talk with him about how their Bridport Town Council running their Tourist Information Centre, which has been a very interesting conversation, but I won't go into that there. We've talked about things like service level agreements and how they organise it amongst the town organisations and what happens there. So we are looking at all different options going forward.
Chris, is there any progress with the building on the corner of King Street on Commercial Road?
On the Weymouth Quay regeneration project, that's a different project, completely, and at the moment that's sitting with Dorset Council's legal department.
Yeah.
That's sort of separate from this sort of grant application.
Because I would have thought the information shop, if you got that, could have been part of that. Because it's in a better position, it's covered by the railway station, it's covered by Swallow.
Yeah, okay, well, that's for something for you to.
I just wondered if there was any progress on it, but obviously if you're waiting for Dorset. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions from councillors? I've got a proposal on the table from councillor Hope. Seconded by councillor Furman. So we're going to go to the vote. This is for the full amount of £5,000. All those in favour? All those against? And any abstentions? Congratulations.
Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you.
Item 9 on the agenda is car fuel. I'm going to ask the town clerk to introduce.
Well done. Thank you, Chair. Members will recall at the last full council that full council asked that Finance and Governance determine the level of financial support that it was felt the council could give to Stockport and Waste Incinerator in supporting their Rule 6 status work in objecting to the proposed development of an energy recovery facility, commonly known as the incinerator at Portland Port on Portland. The applicants Power Fuel have appealed, and we do know that that is highly likely, although we don't have information, to be held in December, hopefully, probably, maybe starting on the 4th of December, likely to be held in one of the larger hotels in the town centre. We have nominated 4 councillors to speak, and full council did agree to not pursue Rule 6 status ourselves and instead look to support Stockport and Waste Incinerator. Just a reminder that Portland Town Council have agreed funding of £3,000 to the Portland Association, who are also separate to Stockport and Waste Incinerator, also pursuing Rule 6 status. Thank you, Chair. You will see in the report that the officer recommendation is an allocation of £5,000. From an officer perspective, we feel confident that we will be able to allocate that either from the underspend for this year or from other budget codes. Members are, however, at liberty to determine what level of support they feel is appropriate. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Before I take questions from councillors, Paula, would you like to say anything?
Well, I didn't know what I was taking on with this, but we'll see it to the end, and I thank you very much for your attention on it. We have been granted Rule 6 status, which gives us equal, power isn't quite the word I would use, but,
Status.
So there's the applicant, which is Powerfields, there's the local planning authority, which is Dorset Council, and there is us on an equal footing to that. The Portland Association have that same footing. So the time frame is crucial and unforgiving. Next Tuesday, if we haven't said everything that has to be said in writing, with expert witnesses lined up, budgets allocated, we won't be able to call on that. So we've got a barrister, we've got legal advisors. You can't appoint any people unless you've got the money in the bank. We've got.
How much money have you got?
Well, I think this is live, isn't it?
Mhm.
So I'm not going to give Powerfuels the insight, except we're gonna nail it.
I'll change the question. Then.
Yeah.
How much do you need?
Well, we've got, so the barrister is incredibly interesting, but also quite nerve-wracking. So you hone your proof of evidence, which has to be submitted on the 5th of November, back to your statement of case, which has to be submitted on next Tuesday, which is supported by the expert witnesses that you have secured and appointed. So on Friday, we've got 3 expert witnesses lined up, but we have to make the decision on Friday whether we can afford 1 of them, 2 of them, or 3 of them. So as you may be aware, we have crowdfunding that's, every day, and I'm sitting there working away, Just Giving gives, which is fantastic. But there is a shortfall, but there's also this sense of outrage. So, I have one consultant expert, and the other sort of totally undemocratic reality is that the applicant has had 6 months to make all their plans, and we have this time frame that we have to work to. So when you contact an expert witness, they work in a realm of fast turnaround and high skill. So they are not cheap. If I could earn £3,225 plus VAT for a day.
So how much are you asking this, given that we're a finance trainer, how much are you asking us to?
Well,
it's important.
For instance, again, I don't want to give the game away, but
We could go into members, we could go into confidential session if you wish, and therefore then you can ask, the cameras will go off. Unfortunately, Councillor Lee would have to leave, but we would. I don't know, if somebody wants to propose it, then we can, yeah. Okay, proposed by Councillor Nicholson, seconded by Councillor Lee. All those in favour?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
11.
All those against? All those abstaining? Councillor Rock, okay. And all those abstaining, I think there was one. Okay, so